Welcome to the Choice Magazine podcast, Beyond the Page. Choice, the magazine of professional coaching, is your go-to source for expert insights and in-depth features from the world of professional coaching. I'm your host, Gary Schleifer, and I'm thrilled to have you join us today. In each episode, we go beyond the page of articles published in Choice or on our blog and dive deeper into some of the most recent and relevant topics impacting the world of professional coaching. Exploring the content, interviewing the talented minds behind the articles, and uncovering the stories that make an impact. Choice is more than a magazine. For over 20 years, 20 years I've been doing this, we have built a community of like-minded people who create, use, and share coaching tools, tips, techniques, and methodologies to add value to their business. And of course, what do we all want? To impact our clients. In today's episode, I'm speaking with Dr. Justin J.J. Kennedy, who is the author of an article that we wanted to showcase. And the article is entitled, "Why is Every Great Coach a Neuroplastician?" Well, Dr. Justin Kennedy is a TED speaker, neuroplastician, and coach. He's the founding member of the npnHub and the Neuroplastician Discipline. He is involved with several academic institutes as a Ph.D. coach, supervisor, and professor. His expertise lies in, guess what? Behavioral neuroscience. No coincidence there. And he is a co-founder of ION, the Institute of Organisational Neuroscience, promoting pracademic research. And he's going to tell us more about that. His focus areas include applied neuroplasticity. I am going to get so tongue-tied. Neuroplasticity aimed at standardizing practices in the field. And that's an amazing feat in itself. He assists coaches and consultants on their journey to attain an ideal Ph.D. Thank you so much for joining me today, Justin. Or I've never called you JJ in all the times we've talked.
Call me whatever you like, Gary. It's good to be here.
Just don't call me late for dinner. That's what we always say, right? So I mean, the question is right there. Let's kick off right from the beginning. Why is every great coach a neuroplastician?
The simplicity behind that is when you are in the process of transformation, when the client is going through some development, some learning, some experience that is going to be of improving their well-being, their performance, or their function, they are going to have their brains go through some kind of change. And that change is called neuroplasticity. So if you're a coach, or suppose you should say if you're a good coach, then you're going to be effective at applying tools that facilitate neuroplasticity, therefore being a neuroplastician. So that's the simplicity of it, Gary, if that's simple enough.
I think that's a little too simple. I think our audience can handle a little bit more. Tell us, just expand a little bit more on that neuroplasticity.
Okay, so neuroplasticity, let's just do a 101 on what neuroplasticity is.
Brilliant.
So neuroplasticity is the brain going through some kind of change. When you are born, you've got tabula rasa, there's lots of space for change to happen, and you start, loading the hard drive with information from learning German to riding a bicycle, whatever. At puberty, your brain starts pruning. So uploading information during childhood, then starts the pruning process during the teenage adolescent years. And that is when teenagers are a bit helter-skelter, to put it
which they really test their parents' resolve on having when the parents to say birth control would have been a great thing way back in the day.
Exactly. And anyway, birth control is another conversation, and
after adolescence, please.
And so that downward neuroplasticity is the pruning. And that's when they get to the functional, let's call it the early adult brain. But the good news is, Gary, is that the science, the neuroscience, up until the early 90s, didn't know that the adult brain can still go through neuroplasticity on the channel at the npnHub. We had dialogue with Michael Mozanich, who is probably someone you don't know. But those who do know neuroplasticity will know that he is the dude who defined the research showing that the adult brain goes through neuroplasticity. So, when we got him on the community roundtable, having him there was a bit humbling, obviously, because he's the dude. But his research has showed that when you are learning or going through a developmental process at any age, your brain is going through transformation. Obviously, that has different levels of impact, and it has different impact from unlearning bad habits to relearning new behavior traits to changing emotional triggers, and on, as we know as being coaches, Gary.
Yeah. Well, and beyond that, we've heard stories of people that have had strokes or brain damage and how they've recovered and what it took to do that, right? And the willpower and the commitment as well. But the brain is just so amazing, and we're not.
Did I tell you about my coma ever, Gary?
Tell us again. You told me, but that's.
Oh, anyway, in '99, I was in a road accident. And, it was pretty severe. I ended up in a coma. And, the recovery from the coma was pretty, pretty depressing. Literally, it was a time of depression for me. Couldn't speak. I couldn't walk. My emotions were like a circus and all over the place, from getting angry to crying in the space of a couple of seconds.
Wow.
And I started to think, what's going on under the bonnet, under the hood, as they say in North America. And I was doing a master's program in psychology, and I was thinking, obviously I couldn't finish that because I was barely able to concentrate. But I started thinking, as my thinking improved, I thought, and what's actually going on in my brain that I can do something about? It came basically down to emotional regulation and kind of getting my emotional intelligence up. And as you know, as a coach, it really is the hardest thing to do when you are coaching. So that has become a lifelong journey. And my research in organizational well-being, as many coaches know, is a lot around affect, mood, feeling, and emotion. So coming out of the coma, I got into neuroscience, and short story, I ended up doing a Ph.D. on looking at the impact of neuroplasticity has on the coaching journey, specifically in the organizational context. And the rest is a history or a mystery, depends on how you look at it.
Well, again, no, it speaks to the amazingness of the brain that you had. Like, it has me wonder how, when you had that range of emotions and the distraction of your brain recovering from or post coma, I don't know if you'd call it recovery, but you were obviously on the road to recovery, how you could eke out that piece of time or etch that piece of your brain to even start to formulate that decision to look more at neuroplasticity and neuroscience.
Well, if we both knew that, we would win a Nobel Prize, Gary. So,
I thought you were going to give me the answer.
Well, I'm going to, and then I'm going to take the Nobel Prize, and I'm going to say it's an honor being nominated. Thanks for Gary. It was, but the simplicity, it isn't so anatomical. It isn't so much the neuroanatomy, finding that little specific neuron. It seems to be a lot more around the neurophysiology than the neuroanatomy. And we are noticing in the literature that when you understand how neuroplasticity functions, you get to have more effect on the coaching process. Because speaking to someone about your Jennifer Anderson neuron in your brain, which was quite popular a couple of years ago, it doesn't really help. I mean, Jennifer Anderson or Bob, whoever, it doesn't help knowing the neuroanatomy, but understanding the physiology seems to help quite a lot in the coaching process. So that is something we can explore if you like.
Yeah. Well, I do. And what comes to mind for me is, are there, when you're with a client who's very open and coachable, does that mean that they're more, how would you say it, plastic? They're more neuroplast. How do you say that? I don't
flexible.
Even flexible would be a great
more
word.
available. I mean, the answer is, unfortunately, in neuroscience, it's never yes. It's always because the science is still so novel. We even, like, as we speak, I just read the Nobel Prize I was speaking about for 23, and we're still understanding what upward and downward neuroplasticity even means. I mean, that sounds very simple, but in terms of a flexible client coming in, maybe they're flexible because they're vulnerable and they're insecure and they don't know what they should or shouldn't say. Maybe they are confident and they're interested to learn. Maybe they are sent there by their boss and they better be flexible. So right. It ends up becoming a conversation of what presents that state. So you have to spend some time understanding that, and if you do that through the lens of neuroplasticity, you end up understanding what is the best protocol for the intervention. So that then becomes a really interesting conversation around understanding the neuroception of the coaching client and how that can then inform the coaching protocols and tools that you apply.
The word curiosity is coming up for me right now.
Me too.
Both on the client side and on the coach side. Like, is there more neuroplasticity, flexibility going on when there's a curiosity? I'm working with a company right now, coaching clients that are basically given to me, right? They're given the opportunity to do coaching. And
they're forced onto your schedule.
Well, the organization recognized that they needed some help and they chose for a particular area of the business, and they offered a whole ton of clients employees the opportunity to be with a coach on a short term. And to the person, none of them have had a coach before, but all of them, by the end of the first call, it was almost like there was a tangible neuroplasticity, now that we're talking about this, and I by no way am an expert or anything. I mean, I'm learning. We're just proofreading that particular issue about it. We're publishing your article on our blog and this recording. So I'm like, I love the issues we choose and the topics because I learn more about it. But then it makes me even more curious as to, okay, so, and to your point, I know you're not going to say yes or no because it's neuroscience. I got it. But it's like a thesis, right? Exactly. You pick something and you hang on to it until you prove it one way or the other. If I have it correct, right? And these people come, to your point, hesitating, but then they're just these moldable, so plasticity, it's when you're engaged with those clients, you have that sense that neuroplasticity is at work, or the possibility of it is at work.
Exactly.
Yeah. Is that why all coaches are neuroplasticians?
Exactly. When you see the lights go off, literally, there is neurochemistry at play. There is neurotransmission informing neural pathways that are lighting up. Literally, there's chemistry that is pumping through new pathways and building new channels, new ion channels, as it is known in the academic environment. But in the world of the neuroplastician, we're not interested in being academics or neuroscientists or spin doctors or snake oil merchants hiding behind Latin or jargon. We're very practical as coaches by having an understanding of what's actually going on. So the neuroplastician is a sub-discipline of being a coach. It is a category of a coaching. Okay, let me understand what's going on in the client. The best way to start being a neuroplastician, Gary, if I can just jump into this quickly, is to understand what is the process of neuroception when you start paying attention to the client's subtle behavioral changes, because the face and the body language and facial affect is direct evidence of what is happening neurologically. The brain and the body, as some people may know, is one thing. It's one system.
Yeah.
And language is important, but there's a lot of stuff going on that the client might not notice, that the client may need to notice, so that you can then have that as a theme of supporting them and a theme in helping them grow by knowing how they show up when certain questions are asked, when they're asked to explain certain things. So as we can see, when you were speaking, you went, okay. And as I noticed that affect has a certain correlation to association or confirmation. So the confirmation bias then kicks in, and before you know it, you're onto a whole thread of dialogue that makes a lot of sense to the client, because it's happening unconsciously to them, so that it builds that rapport and gets the content of the coaching to be spot on.
Wow. Well, yeah, thank you for that. That's brilliant.
Yeah,
That's why you're the scientist, right? No, doctor. It reminds me of when you say that confirmation bias. When I was having some mentor coaching, I have a tendency to say, wow. And to your point about confirmation bias, the flip side to that is my bias was agreement, support. That's great. So I was taking away from the client experience by putting on top of it my own bias and my own viewpoint. And so it's remembering that exactly to your point, what you do affects or has a bias on what direction your client might go or answer. And I'm not saying be neutral and totally like a robot, because then AI will take over and then we're all done. But that was 2 issues ago, and still continues. But it's wow, fascinating. I think we could talk about this for hours. But I want to take a sidetrack and understand you've created a community to discuss neuroplasticity.
I mean, this is such an interesting short story with a nice ending. So we're sitting around with a bunch of Ph.D. candidates that I'm supervising and coaching. So, okay, before I forget, those coaches who are listening, I offer a coaching support program to get you into a Ph.D. based on your expertise rather than academic knowledge, rather as expertise based in your practice. So I'm speaking to lots of these coaches. Well, at the time, there was about a dozen of us on the call, and we were speaking about, the application of neuroscience, and some smart Alec chimed in, well, we're all in the game of neuroplasticity. And so everybody said, yes, stroking up, yes.
Your goatees,
very good. And then someone else said, well, if that's true, which we agreed it was, then we're all neuroplasticians. And a coach in the group said, yes, that makes sense. And before you know it, Gary, we have agreed, we built a clubhouse within the Institute of Organisational Neuroscience. We called it the npnHub, NPN being shorter and easier to spell than neuroplastician. And, before you know it, this clubhouse is Wimbledon. And we're having so much interest. those of you, maybe you know the name Paul Zak, Gary, and some other really cool academics and pracademics are engaging with us, and we're building a community, and we actually have built a great community, which is a discussion forum, mainly because there's lots of lonely brains out there who don't know where to go when they want to discuss the science in a safe environment where there's no spin, there's no hypnosis of getting attention. It's a place to learn together as pracademics and to learn stuff that's relevant so that we can learn from each other. We're all sitting in this community on the floor. We're all professionals and professors and pupils and punks, all doing the same thing. We're all just wearing the same cloak.
Yeah.
And it's great fun. It really is so much fun. And I'd really like to offer you to come and check us out and join the community. Barry, so I'd like to give you an access membership for a month to come and snoop around and see what you think if you're interested in neuroscience.
Thank you. I would love that. Sign me up. You've got my email. Okay, well, get me in there. Thank you. That's really nice.
I'll get my people to call your people.
Yeah, so. Have people call my people. That's right. And as
I'll drop the
let's
link
do lunch,
the chat.
right?
I'll give it to you now. I'll give you the chat and the link. But on that point, those who are listening or watching this and who take the science of the brain seriously and are experts in their field in the application of neuroscience, or simply interested to learn more. We are a community. We're a kumbaya club.
Well, you're a movement. You're creating a movement in this area. This isn't a not-for-profit, right?
Exactly. We're starting a bowel movement because the gut-brain axis is where all the emotions sit.
Oh, that's good.
Quick as lightning, huh?
You are, man. Boy, you've really come a long way since that coma.
Oh, very good.
Like we can tell jokes about that now, right?
Yeah, what's that?
We can tell jokes about that now. It's not too soon.
We can. If I start crying, we know it wasn't a good one.
Okay, got it.
Until then,
we're good. Yeah.
Cool. But Gary, it might be interesting to speak into that community of people who are interested in the science, from doing their Ph.D. in applied neuroscience at one of the universities that I'm supervising, or simply having a serious interest because, one, they're lonely, but they're interested in learning about the brain. Two, they're looking for a community of people who are friendly, but taking the science seriously, and people who want to be part of defining the emerging discipline with people like Paul Zak and Michael Mersnich and many other really cool people who are interested in the pracademics of neuroplasticity.
All right. Okay. Go ahead. Break it down. We've said it too many times. We got to tell our audience.
Let me break it down. Let me break it down with you. Pracademia or pracademics are not academics. Pracademics sit on the shoulders of academics, and they build professional and practical tools that work in the trenches. So they're things that coaches can apply rather than things we can publish in academic journals. Sure, we do publish actually, but we prefer writing blogs and we prefer having conversations and roundtables. So pracademics is a very uncomplicated word. It's just interest in learning in a halal kosher kind of way.
Great. Well, thank you very much. And the hub information will be included with this recording. So look where you found this recording, as you'll also find the article that Justin has written, why everyone is, why is every great coach a neuroplastician?
Yeah, I mean, before we go, Gary, let me offer the opportunity for people to join for free with you for a month. Those people who are interested, we'll drop the link into it and you can share it with them, because I really like people to get involved. we're starting a movement, so we need to get things moving. So those who are interested, come and check us out, and join the tribe. We're a fun bunch of cannibals.
Exactly. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you very much. Is there anything else you'd like our audience to do as a result of your article or this conversation?
I don't know.
Join the hub.
Go look at npnHub.com. Have a look. We're interested in conversation. I think the most important thing to remember there is that the brain is a social organ, and without community, we don't really function as well. So
wow, I've never heard that said. Say that again.
The brain is a social organ, which is the reason why Homo sapiens are so intelligent. They know how to tribe together. They know how to scrum down and get stuff done. So that's the key reason that we were so good at getting stuff, getting a movement going.
There we go. Awesome. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for joining us for this Beyond the Page episode. What's the best way to reach you?
The best way to reach us is npnHub.com. You can find out about the neuroplastician certification there. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of categories, and it's based on your previous training and your expertise in the area. So it's a very simple, flat environment, but the discipline is being defined by the thinkers in the field. So npnHub.com. Hopefully that's easy enough to remember.
I think so too. And we'll have that attached to this recording as well.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much, Justin.
No, it's so much fun to have a conversation with you, Gary. We could go on forever, but anyway, thank you, my friend.
That's it for this episode of Beyond the Page. For more episodes, subscribe via your favorite podcast app. And if you're not a subscriber, shame on you, you can sign up for a free digital issue of Choice magazine by going to choice-online.com and clicking the Sign Up Now button. I'm Gary Schleifer. Enjoy the journey of mastery.